Peace be upon you, and welcome to a new episode. Today, we're diving into a very strange story. A story full of mystery, secrets, and carefully planned deceptions. A story that revolves around victims. Ordinary men, just like any of us, who only dreamed of a peaceful life with their wives. But suddenly, without any warning, they find themselves alone. The apartment empty, the clothes gone, and the woman who was laughing with them yesterday vanished like smoke. Imagine this. A man comes home after a long day of work, opens the door and finds silence. No sound, no trace. The wardrobe is empty, the phone switched off. He starts searching, calling her family, going to the police station. But then he realizes the story is far deeper. That woman didn't just run away, she was living a completely different life, one filled with secrets and devilish schemes. And it wasn't just one man. There were many men in different towns and governorates. Each one of them felt like he had fallen into a trap, that the love he thought was real turned out to be nothing but an illusion. How did these victims discover the truth? How did all the secrets suddenly come to light? This story isn't only about betrayal, it's about a clever, diabolical plan that lasted for years, until the one who was deceiving everyone finally fell into her own trap. And before we begin our story, don't forget to like and share this episode so it reaches as many people as possible. And stay tuned every Saturday, Monday, and Wednesday for a new episode. Without further delay, let's dive into the depths of our story. At the beginning of the 2000s, specifically in 2009, in Sharqiya Governorate, there was a woman named Wafaa, around 28 years old. On the outside, she looked ordinary, quiet, somewhat pretty, but inside, she carried a completely different world. Wafaa wasn't like other women her age. She wasn't interested in work or building a family like most people. No. She was only interested in one thing: men. From a young age, she had heard stories about marital problems, the constant fights between husbands and wives. And she would always tell herself, "Why should I live in that headache? I want to live freely, just the way I like." At the same time, she carried a grudge. She used to say, "Why is it that a man can marry more than one woman, but a woman has to stay with only one man?" It wasn't that she thought about religion or morals like ordinary people. No, Wafaa believed she had to live the way she wanted, without anyone labeling her as wrong or disrespectful. So, she started plotting a clever plan. A plan that would let her live however she wanted, but within a legal framework, so she would still appear respectable in the eyes of society. This plan was like a game of chess. Every move calculated, every step measured, every detail serving a purpose. For years, Wafaa watched films and TV series about marriage and divorce, and she told herself, "I'll do something smarter. I'll live the life I want without arguments, without problems, and everything will look official." Her plan was simple in theory, but carrying it out required intelligence and boldness. First step: choosing the right man. Her main condition was that the man had to be healthy, with strong sexual ability. Money didn't matter, morals didn't matter, even looks didn't matter. That condition was the priority. She would spend time studying the man, watching him in different situations, making sure he was suitable before getting close. Second step: marriage must be official. She insisted on having a legal marriage contract so that no one could accuse her of wrongdoing. She made sure each marriage was officially registered, keeping up her respectable image. Third step: controlling the documents. After each marriage, She would go to the civil registry office and update her ID card to say she was married to the new husband. But if she got bored, she wouldn't ask for a straightforward divorce. That could cause fights or legal complications. Instead, she would secretly file a Kula case in court without the husband's knowledge, obtain an official divorce ruling, and keep her old ID card showing married alongside the divorce paper stating she was single. Fourth step, escape. When she tired of a man, she would grab her clothes, any money she had saved, and disappear, moving to another governorate or some faraway place so the husband couldn't easily track her down. Finally, forgery. If the documents started to cause problems, she would resort to falsification, altering a name or date on a divorce paper, but in such a way that the document still looked official without raising suspicion. This plan was diabolical, not only because it was deceitful, but because it destroyed other people's lives. Wafaa knew that the men she targeted would quickly trust her. She was relatively attractive, attentive, affectionate, making them feel like they were the only man in her life. She exploited that trust and then suddenly disappeared, leaving behind a broken man who had no idea what had happened. She would tell herself, "I don't want fights, I don't want problems. I'll just leave the house and walk away and that's it." But in reality, every step added a new victim, piling up more and more court cases until eventually all the threads would come together. The story officially began on November 7, 2009, in Zagazig, Sharkia Governorate, when Wafaa met a man named Mohammed Ahmed Mahmoud. He was an ordinary man, an employee at a private company, in his 30s, dreaming of a calm life, a wife, children, and stability. When Mohammed saw Wafaa, he fell in love with her instantly. To him, she looked like the perfect wife, beautiful, cheerful, caring, and treating him kindly. As for Wafaa, she studied the man carefully. She spent days talking to him, observing him in different situations, making sure his health was excellent and that he matched her non-negotiable conditions. Finally, she told him, "I agree to marry you." The marriage took place at a marriage registrar's office in Zagazig. Everything official, a legal contract, witnesses, dowry, and the wedding papers signed just like any normal marriage. Picture the scene. Wafaa, sitting in front of the registrar, wearing a white dress, smiling, looking at Mohammed with eyes full of love, while the registrar read the contract, and everyone was happy. The very first thing Wafaa did after the wedding was go to the civil registry office in Sharkia, where she updated her national ID card to say, "Married to Mohammed Ahmed Mahmoud." The employee at the registry checked the documents. Everything looked fine. He handed her the new ID, and she left smiling, fully aware that this was just the first step in her bigger plan. They lived together for only a few months, around 6 months. Wafaa treated him like a king, cooking delicious meals, caring for him, laughing with him, but inside she was calculating, how long will this last me? I want to try something new. After just 5 months, on April 6, 2010, she felt bored. She felt Mohammed could no longer give her what she wanted. Instead of starting fights with him or asking for a divorce, which might cause trouble, she went to a lawyer in Zagazig and told him, "I want to file a khul, divorce initiated by the wife, case against my husband, but without him knowing." The lawyer, like any lawyer eager for money, agreed. He filed the case at South Zagazig Court, and a formal divorce ruling was issued declaring that Wafaa was now divorced from Mohammed. But she didn't update her ID card. It still said, "Married to Mohammed Ahmed Mahmoud," while she kept the divorce document saying the opposite. That same day, Mohammed came home to find the apartment empty. Clothes were gone. Wafaa had disappeared. He tried calling her, but her phone was switched off. He went to the police and filed a missing person report, but found no trace. Later, he filed a compliance case in court to legally force her to return to the marital home. But that case would later turn into one of the first red flags to appear. Mohammed was devastated. Maybe he kept blaming himself, asking, "What did I do wrong?" But he never found answers. He had no idea that Wafaa had already set her big plan in motion. Wafaa didn't waste any time. On February 10th, 2010, while she was still legally married to Mohammed, but already holding the divorce ruling, she moved to another governorate far from Zagazig to make sure no one would recognize her. There, she met another man named Mahmoud Fatih, a simple man in his 30s, working a modest job, dreaming of a stable life. Wafaa knew exactly how to make him fall in love with her. She treated him kindly, laughed with him, and told him sad stories about her past, like how she had once been married but divorced because of problems, and that she was an orphan. Mahmoud believed her. He felt she needed someone to protect her, so he said, "I want to marry you." Wafaa agreed but told herself, "I need to fix the papers first." She went to the marriage registrar in the new governorate and presented her ID card, which still said, "Married to Mohammed Ahmed Mahmoud." The registrar looked at it and said, "How? You're married." At that point, she pulled out the official divorce paper that declared she was divorced, with names that matched. The registrar checked the documents, saw everything was in order and said, "All right, congratulations." And the marriage was done. Wafaa lived with Mahmoud Fatih, acting like the perfect wife, cooking, caring for him, but always calculating in her mind. How long will this last before I get bored? Every time Mahmoud told her, "Let's update your ID so it shows you're married to me," she would say, "There's no need. My ID is about to expire. Anyway, I'll update it later." And he believed her, because she always knew how to convince him, laughing, changing the subject. She lived with him for around 4 years. But on April 22nd, 2014, she got tired again. She felt she had already taken what she wanted, whether money or otherwise. She packed her clothes, grabbed a large sum of money she had saved from him, and left the house without a word. Imagine Mahmoud Fatih coming home to find the apartment empty, the wardrobe stripped bare, Wafaa gone. He tried calling her, but her phone was switched off. He went to the police and filed a report, then filed an obedience case in court, just like the first husband, but again, no trace. Wafaa had already moved to a third governorate, Cairo, a crowded place where she could disappear. Mahmoud Fatih was devastated. Maybe he started doubting himself, asking, "What did I do wrong? Why did she leave me?" Maybe he even sought therapy or shut himself away. But he never knew the story was bigger than him. At this point, Wafaa began to develop her plan because she realized the old ID might eventually cause problems if she kept using it. So, she thought about forgery. She went to someone who knew how to alter documents, gave him the original divorce paper from Mohammed Ahmed Mahmoud, and had the name and date changed, making the paper look official enough that no registrar would question it. In 2014, she met a third man named Mustafa Mohammed Mustafa Noor. He was wealthy, financially well off, the owner of a small company, in his 40s, and in good health, exactly as she wanted. Wafaa spent time studying his personality, talking to him, laughing, making him feel that she cared deeply for him. She told herself, "This one can benefit me financially. I'll take as much money as I can before I get bored." She made him fall in love with her. He proposed marriage, and she agreed. She went with him to the registrar in Cairo, presented her old ID and the forged divorce paper. The registrar checked the documents, saw the names matched, felt reassured, and the marriage was completed. She lived with Mustafa for 2 years. Financially, she gained a lot, saving money, buying things, living a comfortable life. But in 2016, she grew bored again. She felt she had taken everything she wanted. She packed her clothes, took the money, and left the house, moving to a fourth governorate, Alexandria. Mustafa came home to find the apartment empty. He tried searching for her, even filed an obedience case, but like the men before him, he found nothing. These victims suffered deeply on a psychological level. Muhammad might have grown afraid of marrying again. Mahmoud Fatih might have come to see life as one big lie. Mustafa might have ended up distrusting every woman he met, and the story kept growing, with no one yet connecting the dots. On August 9, 2020, Wafaa, while still legally married to her previous husbands, married a fourth man named Muhammad Hassan Ali, a married man with children, probably in his 40s, working in a respectable job as a senior government employee. Muhammad Hassan told her, "The marriage will be in secret. I don't want my first wife to know." Of course, this was perfect for Wafaa because she didn't want to change her ID card so she wouldn't have to go back to the civil registry often. She went to the marriage registrar in Alexandria, presented the forged divorce paper, and although the registrar hesitated a bit, saying, "The handwriting on this paper looks a bit strange," Wafaa simply smiled and said, "This is an official document from the court. I am a respectable woman." The registrar was reassured, and the marriage was finalized. She lived with Muhammad Hassan secretly, visiting him at certain times and benefiting financially. He gave her a lot of money to make sure she stayed with him. But on March 6, 2021, she got bored, felt she had taken everything she wanted, and left. She disappeared. Muhammad Hassan tried to look for her, but he couldn't go to the police because of his first wife, so he secretly filed an obedience case, Qadiyat obedience case Ta, and these cases were piling up in the civil registry. On May 24, 2021, Wafaa married her fifth husband, Bassem Lotfi Ahmed, a man in his 50s, financially well off, and a big merchant. And just like before, a forged divorce paper, the old ID card, and a registrar who believed the documents. Wafaa studied Bassem well, made sure his health was excellent, and that he had the ability she wanted. She made him fall in love with her. He proposed marriage, and she accepted. She went to the registrar, presented the forged paper, and just like the previous times, the registrar trusted the documents, and the marriage was finalized. She lived with Bassem for 2 years, saved a lot of money, benefited financially, and lived a comfortable life. But in 2023, she got bored again, felt she had taken what she wanted, packed her clothes, took the money, and left. She disappeared. Bassem tried to search for her, filed an obedience case, but like the victims before him, he found no trace. By then, the victims had reached 5. Each of them suffered alone. And that's not counting 2 other husbands who were not mentioned in the investigations. In 2022, Wafaa met a 6th husband named Ahmed Khalid Sayed, a man in his 30s, in good financial condition. But this time, the marriage registrar refused, saying, "Your ID card is expired, you need to renew it." Wafaa was forced to go to the civil registry in Sharqiya Governorate. She submitted her papers, and the employee, while checking the computer, found strange things. Obedience lawsuits filed by 5 different men, overlapping marriages, and illogical dates. The employee became suspicious and reported it to the officer. The officer summoned her, sat with her, and asked, "Tell me the order, who was first?" Wafaa tried to say, "Maybe it's just a coincidence of names." But when the officer pressed her and asked about each name in detail, she got confused, couldn't defend herself, and finally confessed, saying, "I married 7 men, and I was married to 4 of them at the same time." She was arrested in 2022 at the age of 41. The investigations began at Zagazig police station, and the public prosecution in South Zagazig interrogated her for several days. The officer asked, "How did you do this? How did you deceive all these men?" At first, Wafaa tried to deny it, saying, "I didn't do anything wrong, everything was official." But when the officer showed her the documents and the data from the civil registry, she couldn't escape. She admitted to the entire plan and said, "I just wanted to live the way I wanted. One man wasn't enough." She explained how she used to choose the men, how she filed divorce cases without their knowledge, how she forged documents when necessary, and how she disappeared once she got what she wanted. Investigations revealed that she used small photocopy shops to forge documents, and that she chose distant governorates like Cairo, Alexandria, and Garbia to make sure no one connected the dots. The prosecution collected the evidence, forged divorce papers, marriage records from the civil registry, and the obedience lawsuits filed by the victims. The victims were summoned one by one, and each told his story. They were all shocked when they discovered that Wafaa was married to more than one man at the same time. The prosecution referred Wafaa to the Zagazig Criminal Court, and on April 3, 2023, the court sentenced her to 3 years in prison on charges of forging official documents and being married to multiple men simultaneously. The judge, in his statement, said that this case is a lesson to society, that trust must always come with verification, and that the law will protect victims from such deception. This story makes us reflect. How can blind trust turn someone into a victim? The victims dreamed of a normal life but fell into a trap. Each of them was affected psychologically. Some may have lost their trust in people, some lost money, and some lost their dream of a stable life. The lesson: always verify, always ask questions, and never ignore the small red flags. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your comments. What do you think of this story? Was the sentence enough? And if you were the judge, what would your verdict have been? And with that, today's episode comes to an end. I'm waiting for your opinions and see you in the next episode. Goodbye.